If you missed your favorite show or interview, visit episodes on our website at theworldtoday.news. Now there really is no reason to miss out on anything on theworldtoday.news.
Try the microphone. And day two. And welcome back to The World Today. Nice to have your company too, by the way. It's 5:05 or thereabouts throughout Australia, and in the UK it's 8:05 in the morning, and nice to have your company too. Shane Healey is an expert in terrorism and youth justice. He's a former Australian Defence Force Special Operations Command intelligence operator and private military contractor. Now, Shane's been deployed twice to Afghanistan in 2011 and 2012 as part of a Task Force 66, where he provided insurgent threat assessments. When in Australia, he was part of the Tactical Assault Group, East and West, where he was involved in several real-time terrorist incidents, and he is one of, if not the leading terrorism expert in Australia, if not around the world. Very qualified indeed. Shane, thanks for joining us.
Afternoon, Mike. How are you going?
Very well, thank you. Trump's taking 600,000 Chinese students. Lutnick says 15% of US universities would go out of business without them. Can you explain the dangers of this?
So what he's trying to do is shore up how China have been stealing US intellectual property in the defense space by putting Chinese students into those universities which have the contracts to do some of that research and development. So China have literally gone from accelerated a lot of their defense capabilities exponentially over the last 20 to 30 years. And a lot of that is by stealing intellectual property from the West, especially the US. And he's just shoring up that so they can't do any more of that in the future.
Is this the same with Australian universities?
Yep, yeah. So we used to have a thing called the Confucius organisations, which they were in a lot of Australian universities. They were partnered with a university in China, and same thing. They send out their graduate students, PhD students, to conduct joint, I guess you'd say, experiments or joint learning in our defence space, because, you know, with companies like Thales, with the Bushmasters and some of our weapon systems, a lot of the research and development done is in coordination with defence science and technology and universities. And then they test and research and work out some of these issues, and then they sell them or bring defence in to give them to our Defence Force. And it's an easy way to get it. You get access to some of those systems and definitely the research and development.
Pete Hegseth is cancelling university cooperation projects with China. He's cancelled Chinese involvement with Microsoft cloud systems. He's not a great fan of the Chinese, is he?
No, because he gets it. He has seen the Chinese Communist Party's Navy and Army. 20 years ago at the start of the global war on terror, just how unsophisticated a lot of their technology, their Navy, they've only got two working aircraft carriers, and one used to be a floating casino. And the third one they've built, they've essentially stolen a lot of US technology to try to fast track that for, say, in any invasion of Taiwan. They've gone from first and second generation fighter planes to fifth generation fighter planes. Where do they get that information from? Secretary Hegseth is fully aware that they got that information by stealing it from the West, especially the US.
I was going to ask you what your thoughts with TikTok being taken off the Chinese and handed to Larry Ellison and a few of those guys from Oracle, for example. Larry Ellison is the major donor to the IDF. So if they were worried that China was extracting data. At this stage, it would probably seem for more commercial than a military advantage. With Israel, if we have Larry Ellison and Oracle who now control TikTok, would there be a possibility, and I believe there is, but do you think in your mind, is there a possibility that Israel could also use that data? But their purposes at this stage seem to have a much more severe outcome.
There's no doubt that the IDF do very, very similar actions. They do it very overtly. If you're joining the Central Intelligence Agency day one, they tell you that the Mossad, even though they're supposed to be quote unquote friends with the US, that they actively try to steal information from the US. And it's more about they're paranoid of what aren't the US telling them. So, for example, the F-35 fighter jets, which the US sell around the world, and they'll sell like the F-35I for Israel or the F-35E for the United Arab Emirates, and they change some of their communications and some of the systems in there because the US, they want to keep it that they've got the best fighter jet in the world, but B, they're also worried that if one of those jets gets shot down over Iran, then Iran can back engineer all that technology. And well, the Israelis don't want the F-35I, they want the F-35. So then they, again, try to go in and steal, and they try to work out what exactly the US aren't giving them, and they try to get that technology.
So why would then the Trump administration basically give them the license via Oracle and the others to information and data that concerns all Americans, for example?
Yeah, it's hard to comment without seeing the actual contracts because TikTok is known that it's a Chinese intelligence collection asset. So what a lot of people, I won't allow TikTok in my house. So if my son has it on his phone stays outside my house. If someone coming to my house has it on their phone, that phone stays out. Because when you sign up to TikTok, you're actually giving the Chinese government permission for them to not only get all the information on that device, but any other device that it comes into contact with. And that is in the terms of agreement. So if someone that I know brings their phone into my house and it has TikTok on it, they've given TikTok, i.e. the Chinese government, permission to hoover up all the information in any device within my house. So I don't allow it in. People wouldn't be aware of that. So, and that, not that everyone's nefarious, but it goes on to who are they talking to, and that's how they get into. You're a businessman. You work at Thales. You work at Raytheon. You work at Boeing. You work at one of these companies. And you've got teenagers and they're on TikTok. Well, you've given TikTok the ability to get into your phone, and then who do you speak to? What work colleagues are in your phone? And that's how human intelligence starts collecting information, and then it goes into signal intelligence and collection. And this is the world of espionage and collection, which is what TikTok was all designed for.
Confucius Institutes, are they just a hangout for spies?
They were 100%. There was an assessment done about 4 years ago that they assessed that there was over 400 active collectors or Chinese assets within Australian universities.
That's incredible. The Chinese, first of all, we hear, for example, UK Column, they're promoting the Chinese in a very big way at the moment. I think a guy called Carl Jar and Jeremy Smell or something. Anyway, Jeremy Nell. Sorry, but there was a slip. They're traveling all throughout China right now, promoting the beauty of China, how it's totally the opposite to what people think. It's a very democratic society, and that we all love each other. a few of our guests would disagree with that. That they would point out that, for example, they would be talking about that the live harvesting of organs and stuff like that. What's your views? Because I mean, I've heard scurrilous stories about it. Been to Shanghai and Hong Kong and stuff. It seemed like a pretty normal place to me. Beijing, international city, along with Shanghai and Hong Kong. So is there a lot of hype, do you think, surrounded with these cities, and that people promote the advantages of a Chinese lifestyle? Are we misinformed, or are we not informed enough?
Well, I'm going to put the whole human organ thing to the side. But as far as the Chinese, what they want, they're quite open about it. You know, you can Google China 2025, China 2027. They put their policies on the internet, and it's like that's what the whole Belts and Roads initiative was. There is one Han. China is the center of the global empire. We are going to dominate. They're quite open, and everything they're done and doing is designed at dominating the world. They're trying to devalue the US currency and make the yuan the global currency. If you're going to do business with China, you have to use Chinese money. They're buying all this raw material in order to have it, so when they do invade Taiwan, and they're watching the restrictions and all the global threats against Russia in the Russia-Ukraine war, to say, okay, if that happens to us, how do we deal with it? Because they need to import all these natural resources and oil and energy and steel and coal. So they're just like, we'll just keep doing it now while everyone's selling it to us, because once we invade, or when we do make our military provocations and the world starts locking us off, we'll have the assets to survive. They also look at history, and you look at World War II with Japan. That all started through a US naval blockade of Japan in 1937-38. And so the Japanese, who didn't have much natural resources, they had to go on the march and acquire rubber. They had to acquire oil. Which is what started World War II in the Pacific. They are learning from history, and we are forgetting.
Grant Newsham retired Colonel Grant Newsham said about the organ harvesting, which I'd completely forgotten about. And I don't know if that's true or not, but Grant's a very reliable person, and he would probably know what he's talking about a lot more than I would, and as you would know a lot more than I would. Should we be wary of the Chinese these days? I mean, because again, the information or misinformation about China, if you look at all the films, the bad Chinese, bad this, bad that, so the propaganda is working there, or the nudging to make us think that China is bad. Is it actually a threat, or is it more of a commercial threat?
No. I've been quite open. In if you read some things I post, we're already fighting a 5th generation war with China in cyberspace. You know, they are actively trying to target. You would have earlier in the year, there was some Chinese naval vessels that came close to Australia and New Zealand. You know, they fired a few missiles. The ADF didn't realise they were coming until they were virtually here. What they were actually doing is they send cables down, and they try to. So there's what's called SS7 cables between all the countries, and that's what all our telecommunications go through. Mm-hmm. They try to tap into those so they can then harvest all the communication traffic that is travelling between countries. A Chinese boat got arrested in Europe, in Norway, for doing the exact same thing. So while they said it's just some military exercises and they fired a few rockets off their ships, what they were actually doing was intelligence collection operation. And again, you know, if you go to my X account, I unpack it all. This is what they're trying to do. They're collecting information, and this is what 5th generation warfare is. It's in cyberspace. It's information warfare. They are at the forefront of the globe of conducting these operations.
Someone once said that if there was a war with China, the US, and I think there's a think tank, and you might be aware of it, and I'll probably get the figures wrong here, but they said if there was a war with, with China and the US, that China, if it shut down the US's infrastructure, it would probably win the war, and 2/3 of Americans would die within 30 to 45 days because they have no water, medicine, hospitals, electricity, and so forth. Would that be a fair assessment?
Pre-COVID, 100%. COVID woke the world up to how much the world was reliant on China. So while COVID was started in the Wuhan lab, it was an accidental leakage. They didn't deliberately want it out there, but it was designed to do what it did, shut the world down. And that was designed to shut the world down. Therefore, we're crippling the world. So when we then use our military to project, the world aren't in a place to respond. So what it did was realise, oh, hang on, everything we get in these different industries comes from China. We need to make everything in America, or we need to expand and buy from Vietnam and buy from Mexico. And there's a guy named Peter Zahan who does a lot of work in this space, and he's been banging the drum for about 3 years on. Countries need to diversify where they get their clothes, their oil, everything, computer chips, and that's the big one. Nivea with Taiwan with the chips that we use in our cars, that we use in everything we have electrical, phones. It's all made through the really good ones are made in Taiwan, and that is going to be what at this point the next world war is about: getting access to those chips, because whoever owns those chips owns modern infrastructure.
It's interesting. I'll go back to China. I just find it interesting that a news or a public broadcasting outfit in the UK would have such propaganda on about China. I mean, they are just. I mean, I don't understand that. And in Australia, if there was a organisation that was really pushing the Chinese narrative, would they be looked at severely, do you think, by the government, or is this just a...
Well, it's interesting. We just had Dan Andrews and I think Jacinta Allen and that go to China. In my view, and I posted it, they should be interviewed by ASIO. Like, that's an espionage act. What were they going over there? What were they talking about? What did they pay for? What got paid for them? You know, I think it's disgusting that a former premier and a premier are going over to our adversary and giving them what. So, I was quite heavily what I posted about it. I think they should be investigated under the Espionage Act.
I just find it very interesting. But I have looked at part of it with this, if you get a chance to, it's on a UK column, I think .co.uk. There's a plug for them. But it's interesting because it's a very, very expensive production. I mean, they're racing around the desert and doing all sorts of flights. I mean, I think Carl lives in Bali, and Jeremy Nell lives in South Africa, and it's done pretty well, I have to say. I'm not their fans, not a fan of them by any stretch.
Look at the money they have spent in Africa under Belts and Roads, and what they were going to do in Solomon Islands and in the PNG. Money is no object for their end game.
But it's interesting that, and I do agree, money is no object, why a grassroots organisation would promote the benefits of China. Anyway, it's just me, because I would have thought...
They're getting paid. It's pure, there was, if you recall, about 4 months before the last US election, it came out that the Chinese government were funding a whole heap of so-called centrist YouTube channel news crews, Dave Rubin, Tim Poole. Now, to their credit, they didn't know that the money was coming from China, but China was funding these organisations in order to get messages across.
It's very interesting. I think I just find it interesting that they would be, if they're a grassroots organisation, looking at the grassroots organisations of the
But they're
UK.
looking. So you got to understand. We look election to election, 2, 3, 4 years ahead. They look 20, 30. Like they wrote their 2025 plan in 1998.
Mm,
By 2025, we're going to be doing this. So they're so strategic and long thinking that every move they make is designed for what's going to be happening in 10 to 15 years, which is why it's nothing for them to send students to high school and university in Australia to then get that master's degree, to then get a scholarship at this organization, to then go back to China
mm,
with that information. And that could be 10, 12 years.
mm,
That's the game they're playing. We don't have the patience or political will to play that long a game.
I have to say, when we were in Shanghai, magnificent city, truly, and nothing but a great time to doing work, of course. Tell us about Jelani giving a speech at the UN and David Petraeus' interview when Petraeus said he was a fan and worried about him. I mean, Petraeus was ex-CIA, and he was a very senior general with Iraq, not with the
I'm
army,
going to have to
with
count
the
to,
US.
going to have to count to 10 because that absolutely infuriated me that the man who
Because you
ordered
saw that, then you would have seen the interview.
us. Oh, yes. And I had my phone exploded. But a very, very, very smart person pointed out to me that this is, what's the solution? Like, you're just going
Mm,
to keep the war going. If Jelani's decided to put a suit on and create some sort of stability and peace in that area, it's better to work with him than the Chinese and Russians going back in there. When I was in Baghdad in 2015, he was number 3 on my target deck.
mm,
And there was a $10 million reward for the FBI. And Petraeus, when he was the commander of multinational forces Iraq, was hunting Jelani. I was very, very angry and very conflicted when I first saw that. Watching him and some of the US politicians fawn over him infuriated me and a lot of the global war on terror veterans. But like I said, someone very, very smart said to me, what's the alternative? This is how we move the world forward into a safer place. We bring him into the fold and we start shaping him and the new Syria as in our mold rather than continue down that Sunni Salafi idealistic path.
yeah. Someone said I said, what the hell's this guy doing? With Petraeus. And someone reminded me that he now works for the CIA. And that's probably,
No, he's still. This is the issue. So Al Qaeda put him in power. 70% of the fighters that helped him take Syria trained in Afghanistan. Same as the October 7 Hamas. Most of those guys were Al Qaeda fighters trained in Afghanistan. And this is it. It's now become an influence game. The US have signed a deal that they're going to build all the telecommunications
Mhm.
in the new Syria rather than China. And so this is the game that is happening now. And like I said, someone exceptionally smart in that geopolitics calmed me down and explained the way that the New World Order works.
And do you think the other thousands, hundreds of thousands of soldiers would share the same sentiments?
No, they're as angry as I am. Like I said, my phone did not exploded for about 4 days over it. Very, very hard to swallow. This is the guy that we targeted and tracked for years. Operation Kala Mueller was killing al-Baghdadi, and Jelani and al-Baghdadi were 1 and 2. They were best mates.
It's a strange world we live in, isn't it?
Yeah, but you've got to think ahead. Like, if we keep him as an enemy and we keep the Middle East in turmoil, We're friends with Viet, and as this person explained, we're friends. We go to Vietnam now for holidays. We go to Turkey every Anzac Day. We're allies with Germany. My stepdaughter's currently in Japan, so it's not a new thing to become friendly with a former adversary, and it's almost part of diplomacy. So let's just see what happens in 24, 48 months.
Don't hold your breath, folks.
I agree.
Shane Healey, it's been a pleasure. We have been endeavouring to get a show, but we're so under-resourced here, I've got to tell you, and this is on air, so I do apologise, but we are doing our best. But today even, I'm very glad we went to air. Because the amount of work that's being lumped on us is very hard. So I appreciate you all the time when you come on. You speak sense. I do feel like a nincompoop at times around you because you know a lot more than I do, but always appreciate it. And thank you very much, sir.
Anytime, Mike. Take care.
Take care. This is The World Today.
For those who crave more than just reading headlines in their social media feeds,
people need to wake up.
We're today's news talk, The World Today.
And welcome back. My guest is Trevor Coult MC, decorated British Army veteran, has served in the Royal Irish Regiment. And just like our last guest, Shane Healey, just bring it spot on, bang on with just about everything he says. Trevor, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I always enjoy coming on. A bit early in the morning, but apart from that, it's great.
I know, normally you get up at the crack of midday. We know that. Keir Starmer, he's the most unpopular PM in recorded history, unless, however, someone else does another survey that leans towards the Labor Party, that he won't be. It depends on those surveyed, but he is not very popular at all, is he?
Well, I
He's
found
terrible.
it yesterday.
He's
I've been
awful.
keeping an eye on it, Mike, and you're right. He is very unpopular. I mean, it just goes from bad to worse here. I mean, it's hard to believe that we could have had someone worse than Truss. She lasted about 2 weeks, and it just gets bad. It just gets worse. I mean, how can we not seem to find someone that can lead people? I mean, we have Sandhurst, the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, where we find leaders. Their motto serve to lead, and yet we can't seem to find a decent person to lead the country. It turns out now that over 53% of the Labour Party want him gone. That's his own party. He's very unpopular. I can see things happening at the minute with Ed Miliband's moving in to try and maybe take him up. And then you've got Andy Burnham. So you've got two different people. If I'm honest, they're all as bad as each other. But I would really love to see the new motto for Labour. It's a picture of Ed Miliband eating that bacon butty and saying, for the people, because that would sort of cut half his voters in half, wouldn't it?
But here's the thing. I mean, Starmer, like any prime minister or any president, it's sure they pretend to have the final say and I'm the leader. Really, they're told by cabinet what to do, what to say. So even though he's not popular, first of all, whoever you get if you had a new leader, you're still going to be doing the same because they're told what to do by the cabinet or by the party.
Well, this is a strange party. I mean, we've seen is that 15 members of the cabinet office have resigned in a year through corruption, through scandals. They've all gone. But there's one thing which is starting to come to light now, and that is the power that the ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair has. In fact, if you look into this digital ID is being forced on us by Tony Blair. And if you dig deeper, you'll see that Tony Blair, when he left as Prime Minister, started the Blair Institute for Global Change. And one of his biggest backers is Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison's the second richest man on the planet, who actually gave Tony Blair over £256 million for his institute. And not only did he do that, I only found out that Larry Ellison has got an 800 million IT deal with Whitehall, the MOD, the Civil Service, Downing Street. So Larry Ellison's one of the big guys here who if he doesn't get his way, because he's the one behind digital ID, if he doesn't get his way with digital ID, he could very well pull the plug on all the IT systems in Whitehall, the Ministry of Defence and the Civil Service. So no matter how many people sign that petition, I think it's like 2.2 million now, no matter what we all complain about, I believe this is going to happen.
If you look at Larry Ellison, I mean, he's one of the, I think there's three owners of TikTok. And they were worried that China was going to extract data and use it for advantage, whether it's commercial or military. Well, at the moment, there is no military advantage at the moment because the children using it or the young people using it, so what? But at the same time, they are still extracting that data. But I believe, and many have said, that it's more commercial at this stage, but they do have it there. If you give it to Israel, or give it to Larry Ellison, who's the largest, probably he's the one who donates just about most of it all to the IDF. He's the largest donor for the IDF. If he's the largest donor for the IDF, and if he has his claws into Whitehall, what do you think? Because TikTok's not just America, it's global. What do you think the Israelis, one, if you're the largest donor to the IDF, you're going to give the IDF access to TikTok? What do you think they would do with that data? Because for a commercial advantage, Israel compared to China is, commercially is tiny. So the only other thing to use it for is for a military purpose. And we know how good Mossad is and how effective they are. Would it be past the pub test to suggest that Larry Ellison is going to supply the IDF with all the information they need about people saying bad things about Israel, and if they get out of hand, anything can happen?
That's dangerous, Mike. But yeah, I do understand where you're going. It wasn't that long ago. That we found out, and the Israeli Prime Minister did state that they used the pagers to kill a lot of Hamas, just setting off the pagers. It is dangerous to think that someone can have that type of power, where if you pick your phone up and you log on to the wrong app to look at something, it could explode in your face. So there's that, which could happen and the way Israel's going, I wouldn't put it past them not using that type of technology. I just don't understand why one man, Larry Ellison, can be given so much power and so much influence over several governments. And it's quite dangerous. He's the guy that owns Oracle, isn't he? And he's the guy that controls. He employs tens of thousands of people here in the UK. And
so tell me this, the next thing. I mean, this is going one step further. If Larry Ellison is so influential with the Starmer government or the UK government, and we have yet the Starmer saying that we recognise Palestine, one of those is not true. Either what we're saying about him having his claws tentacles into the UK government is not true, and we just mentioned 800 million, or perhaps the foray into public speaking, protecting the Palestinians from genocide, perhaps the government is not really sincere in that. It's just words to appease its constituents, because you can't have one or the other. You cannot have one or the other. Either Starmer or the government supports a Palestinian state, they support the stopping of genocide, or they don't. If you're paying an enormous amount of money to a company that is the largest donor to the IDF, sorry, both don't meet in the middle. It's either one or the other. What do you think?
Well, I think they both meet in the middle, and I'll explain. First of all, Larry Ellison is one of the biggest donors to Tony Blair's the Blair Institute for Global Change, as we know, 256 million. It's been confirmed that Larry Ellison has an 800 million stake in IT in Whitehall, the MOD, and civil service. So Blair's putting pressure on Starmer. However, are you aware that Tony Blair's put himself forward to be the first and the new governor of Gaza?
Yes, I am.
So if he's trying to be pushed in that direction, and let's be honest with you, Larry Ellison will be putting pressure as well on the IDF and the UK. They'll back Blair to become the first governor of Gaza, and that way we have someone in plain sight that doesn't support Gaza, but is the governor of Gaza, who will be able to give all the information that Israel need, the UK need, the US need. He's like the devil in disguise, isn't he, Blair?
So maybe, because if he's governor of Gaza, it's only done with the blessing of Israel, and they, oh, you can't do that, you can't. But end result will say the same thing, that if he is governor of Israel, we have Larry Ellison having his tentacles into Whitehall. You have Larry Ellison controlling TikTok, and the information and data from that also goes to Israel. If you were someone living in Gaza that wasn't of Israeli heritage, I'd be very nervous, because Tony Blair is a man not to be trusted. So all this that we see from the protest, and we see that Starmer saying, yes, I would like to blah blah whatever he wants, it's all starting to morph into that pointy part of the plane. That if, for example, they want to protect Israel, and I think they should protect Israel, but not by blowing up everybody else. But if they, as you said, appoint Tony Blair, I mean, you have Gaza is no longer Palestine. It is going to be an abomination of a tyrant running it, and that anybody, and they have the access, they can do other social media, but they can do, for example, TikTok. They can find out who's saying bad things against me, as if you were Netanyahu. And Tony Blair can do the same thing. So what you're going to have, in many ways, is a bit like go back a couple of hundred years ago when you had the East India Trading Company. You're going to have the governor, Tony Blair, with the same sort of authority as they had then, beat the natives on the head and make sure they do as they're told, and will throw you a scrap of meat. So is there any difference then between the East India Trading Company, what they used to do, and Tony Blair becoming governor of Gaza, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life?
When I heard about it a couple of days ago, I had to go and research and make sure that it wasn't a made-up story, and it is true. So Tony Blair is putting himself forward as the governor. He's trying to get other companies to back him to do it. I believe Tony Blair is going to try and use the Gaza Strip a bit like the Northern Ireland peace line. He's going to try and have, not the UN, because they are yesterday's, they're spent. The UN's dead in water. So what may happen is an international force in the Gaza Strip along a peace line, a bit like what happened in Northern Ireland. But then you're never going to help it. You're never going to fix it, because you're going to have breakaway groups and splinter groups carrying out terrorism attacks. And the only difference is this time, when they rebuild Gaza, there's going to be no tunnels, because everything's been obliterated. So it's going to be starting from the ground up, the new buildings, the new wall, the new peace line in place, and then it may change for the better. But I can never see Palestinians and Israelis working together. I can never see it. I just think that there's too much hatred in there. It reminds me of growing up in the 70s and 80s in over here, well, in Belfast, where it was just tit for tat attacks constantly. I'm going to die and pass away, and this is still going to continue, Mike.
Not yet.
Nothing's going to be resolved. People will be richer, though.
I'm just thinking the digital ID, because, sorry, we're putting things together here, and this again makes sense. If Larry Ellison or Oracle have their tentacles into Whitehall, bet you 10 cents to nothing that the digital ID will be overseen by Oracle or parts of it. And again, if they want to siphon data from that, and you're a stupid government, any government minister, no matter what country you're in, doesn't make any difference, they're stupid. They believe what they're told from the people that work below them in various departments. But they could siphon that data from digital ID, and it could go to Israel, couldn't it?
100%. Nothing is secure. I mean, there's that many leaks in Downing Street and in our government that we need to actually employ plumbers to make sure that things are safe down there. I mean, it's just every year there's another story where an MP or a minister has left a file on a bus or in a taxi. Basically, it's what I would call it is data dumps, stuff that they want to be leaked out. They just leave it in the public, in taxis for people to find out. Nothing is secure. We have seen it happen. £1 billion corporations falling apart because someone's hacked their system. At the minute, Land Rover and Jaguar in the UK had to shut lots of their factories because they were hacked. I mean, Tesco's, you get your point system in Tesco's and Sainsbury's. You have to upload your data on there. They get hacked. There's nothing secure. So I don't understand why they're trying to force us into a digital era when there's nothing safe online. Anyone can hack anything. And if you get into the right system, you can set off missiles. You can destroy countries.
The other thing too is, of course, if Tony Blair is, which I really, really hope he's not, but if Tony Blair is the first governor of Gaza, he'll be able to survey and look at all the information from everybody with digital ID. Yes, they're popping into that place. If they're doing that, with controlled currency, which will come in not too far down the track, we'll have to cut them back. They're being very naughty. So it opens up this great hole. It's like a damn black hole that as they do more, the hole gets deeper and wider. And eventually it just swallows the whole neighbourhood. And unfortunately, that neighbourhood is what we're all living in. Can you tell me about the logic behind the digital ID is going to help in the UK? It's going to help with the immigration problem, because first of all, the illegal immigrants can still come in. They're just given a digital ID, but it's not going to stop immigration, is it? Unless they say you can't come to the UK because we're not going to give you a digital ID. And they're going to go, bugger off, we'll be there in 5 minutes. So I don't understand their logic either. If you could just fill me in, and perhaps I'm just dense, I don't know.
Well, first of all, Mike, you're right. You're right. You've got it nailed down. You don't even need me on this show. Honest to God.
Hey, I do. You're better looking.
Digital ID it's pointless. It's about control. They want to control the population by giving us digital ID. They come out with some nonsense. Keir Starmer said the other day that digital ID, you won't be able to go for a job unless you have digital ID. But millions of people are on the dole. They don't want to get a job. So yeah, but if the immigrants come in, they'll need digital ID to get a job. But they already need a visa for that, a work permit. You can't just digital ID is not about controlling the migrants. So basically, what happens is the government creates this issue with migration, and then comes up with this plan to solve it. All they're doing is trying to control us more and more. Digital ID is one of those systems where I'll go to log on one day on the internet and it'll come up saying, "You've already been on for 3 hours today, Mr. Coult. You've had your fill." I'll be, "Oh God, okay." Or go to the shop to buy something. "You've already spent your £150 allowance today and your card's blocked." I mean, digital ID is about controlling the law-abiding citizens. It doesn't control the bad people. It's like America, gun control. Okay, but
that works well.
The good people look after their guns. It's the bad people that are causing the issue. So this is about controlling the population. It's not about fixing the issue, which is migration, which is a nightmare. We've now, and your government can do this as well. If there's an issue and it's causing issues within the public domain, it's causing issues within civilization in your country, what do the government do? The government spend millions of pounds in taxpayers' money and they put in place super injunctions so no one in the mainstream media can cover it, which means we don't know what's going on because we have paid to suppress that issue. So now we're all going, what happened about the hotels in the UK? They were filled up with migrants. Yeah, that's empty now and that's empty now. Oh, they must be gone. They're not. What they're doing now is they're being driven down to all around the country, and if there's empty student accommodation, Cambridge, Oxford, Manchester, Liverpool, we are filling the student accommodation with these people. So what we're doing now is effectively we're putting these dangerous men among our daughters and our sons that are at university. It's shocking what's happening. But back to the digital ID is about controlling us. It's not about helping us. It adds no value to us. I mean, we already have our birth certificates, our marriage certificates, our national insurance number, our national health number, our passports, our driving license. I mean, our name. I mean, to be fair, to come on the phone here to speak to you, Mike, I had to do a facial recognition feature to turn on my laptop. It's a fingerprint. I mean, if I go through the airport, it's scanned. They know us. They know everything about us. CCTV, driving license. Look at that. I mean, what more value does this card add other than if we're all on the system, and if I'm on the system along with you, Mike, and the government want to shut us down and we're talking about the wrong thing, the government type in my digital ID and the screen goes black and you don't have me on your show anymore. It's about controlling the people. If you can't beat Tommy Robinson or you can't beat Katie Hopkins or Dan Wooden or Mike Ryan or Trevor Coult, here's what you do. You enroll them on a system and then you cancel them right from the source.
And then you hear, because you think, well, I have no electricity, no food, no life, and you're sitting there in the dark, and then you hear, hello, hello, hello.
Yes,
Come down, come for a walk with us. We've got a nice car for you. Look, put these nice bracelets on.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. We're making light of it, but it's happening now. I mean, you cannot criticise. You can't say hurty things, because we're dealing. I mean, I'm shocked at the if you say anything against Islam, you'll go to jail. But you can blaspheme. You can tell Dave Allen jokes about the Catholics or whatever, and nothing happens. If you did that with Islam, you would go to jail for quite a long time. And while on that subject, as we segue into it, what did you have last night for dinner? Can I ask you? Did you have a roast? Did you have a roast?
You've caught me out now. Had a KFC.
Did you? Okay, but generally, I mean, not most, but a lot of people have a Sunday night roast.
Yeah.
So when was the last time you had a Sunday night roast, but it was halal? Probably the last time you had a roast.
I had a Sunday roast last Sunday in the Toby jug actually in Ipswich, but I'm going to be honest. I don't think the food was halal. I really don't. In fact, you know what? It's not about how the animal is killed for me. It's about common sense, and I don't want to see. I will not eat any of that halal shit, if I'm honest. It's nothing.
But you don't know what you're getting, and that's the thing. I mean, Catherine Blakelock and her group of fantastic people, they're discovering that that a great number of supermarkets and outlets, in fact, more than you would ever imagine, are doing their halal thing. I mean, it sounds like a dance, but doing the halal thing. And it's sort of like, one, it's illegal to do it unless it is for a religious purpose, but to sell it to the general public, it's an illegal operation. But I'm sure, and nothing against our Muslim friends, because there's some really nice people, bad eggs in every religion. But I'm sure, though, you wouldn't be following what they do and having a halal Sunday night roast.
No. No. Fortunately, I wouldn't do that. It's not how I was brought up. It's not how I was raised. I wouldn't do it. But, the comment, I do understand that supermarkets are starting to slip these in the fridge freezers and all the rest of it. But like anything, when you go to pick it up, look at it. Look at what it says on it. Because if it is halal, then it has to be advertised on the label that it's halal. And if you're picking it up and taking it home and not checking it, then more fool you, if I'm honest. Supermarkets should be advertising it in big signs to let us know, but they don't. It's a bit like driving into a car park and the small writing says if you return within half an hour, you're going to get fined. But we can't see it when we're driving past on the way in. So all these companies legally are meant to advertise things properly, but it's going to be in the small print. It won't be on the front of it. You turn it over, it'll be in the back of it in really small writing. So just check your food whenever you get it out of a freezer and to make sure that it is the right type of food, because I'm not into all that type of nonsense from different cultures. Listen, I'm one of those guys that whenever I go abroad, I'll try the local delicacy and that's it. And then I'll go back and I'll want a burger. I like to eat what I eat. I mean, I don't mind trying other food, but I'm only going abroad for the heat, for the weather, and for the beautiful buildings and architecture. a lot of the time I don't like the food, if I'm honest, Mike.
Well, Robin Tilbrook and Catherine Blakelock about to win some cases in the UK, which will mean that they have to stop the halal killings, and they have to notify people. I'll just tell you a couple of examples that you don't know about. Halal only meat, by the way, only meat is supplied to some schools, the Swansea Council, and some universities, Newcastle, and Pizza Express. The meat they use is halal, and it is not labelled in supermarkets, and consumers don't know they're eating it. You don't know that you're eating halal meat, and you are. I bet you a beer. No, actually, I'm on a scotch. Make it a nice bottle of Lapthrog or whiskey. I bet you that you're eating halal meat.
Well, that's just slapped me across the face. I am not going to eat ever again in Pizza Express. So that's Pizza Express done for me. However, you've opened up my eyes a little bit, Mike. So my son likes the old Domino's pizzas, so I am going to check. I actually am going to check. But Pizza Express is done for me. I won't be going there again. I don't believe in all these things. Listen, at the end of the day, maybe if I lived out in the Middle East, I would fall in line with the rest of them. But the thing is, I don't live out there. I live in the West. I live just outside London, and I don't believe that this should be forced on us without letting us know. And if they are going to force, if you have eaten something, and I believe if you've eaten something and they haven't told you what it is, then sue them. Sue them. That's what I would do, because I don't want to eat that stuff. And if I find out that they are forcing stuff down my throat, it's a legal case.
But you'll find, though, that your spuds are okay. Your pumpkin's all right.
Yes. Yeah. Good old, the best spuds in the world, Cumber spuds from Northern Ireland, the best spuds.
So you'll become a vegetarian before you know it, and you can always thank me for it not. Can I just ask you? We're talking to Shane Healey before, because we hear, and the reason I'll tell you the reason why I'm mentioning this. It's we did filming in Shanghai and Hong Kong, and thought that China was my wife had done many trips to parts of China, and I think it's a great place. People are lovely. There are always good people and bad people. But going one step further, we do know that the Chinese government, according to many administrations, is preparing for a war. I don't believe that, but that's what they're saying. And that the Chinese influence, if you look at what happened to TikTok, being taken off the Chinese, and you look at hear other stories, blah, blah. In your mind, as a military person, do we need to be wary about China these days or not?
Well, first of all, I'll say your last guest, Shane, I listened to him, very intelligent guy. I actually enjoyed his conversation, and I learned a bit of knowledge from him, which was great. Always good to learn. The China-Taiwan issue, which is being told to us non-stop. I mean, we're being told about this. We must be aware they're preparing for war. I can't see it. I really honestly can't see it. I know at the minute there's war games and they're out with their ships, and they have to do that. That's part of training. But I don't think China is going to invade Taiwan. I honestly don't. I think America is forcing it down our throats and telling us that they are going to do it for some political gain. Or maybe the America's telling us about the threat of China so that America can have more money spent on their military infrastructure or their, whatever they need to buy. But I hope there's not going to be a war out there. I really do. Taiwan's only a small place, but they are very strong as well. I think China would probably benefit working with Taiwan rather than invading Taiwan.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just find the whole thing very interesting. I think if you look at Colonel Grant Newsham, he does not trust the Chinese, and neither does Shane. And they both say, and Grant Newsham, by the way, who's military intelligence personified, as with Shane, both saying that there will be a stoush, or at this stage a stoush. And I think many are saying that 2027 would be the occasion for such a stoush. If that's the case, Here's a question. I mean, one question. And I enjoy their programming very much. In fact, a lot of our ex-people are now working for a UK column. Why would they be pushing the Chinese narrative so much? And they are pushing it a lot. Why would they be pushing it? And the question is, on top of that is, why would Ofcom be allowing it?
Well, Ofcom, let's be honest, they're meant to be independent. But, they get their funding from the government. Let's get that straight. So they are independent, but government funded. So in a way, that's always been a bit of a loose sort of picture where if you don't do what you're said, you will not get the funding. Maybe funding can drop. Maybe funding can increase. So I don't trust Ofcom, which is it's just silly. With regards to the China situation of constantly peddling this attack or this war, there's always a reason. Maybe there is a military company in the US or UK which need investments, and in order to get investments, why would the UK invest in military hardware if there's not going to be a war? If there's not going to be something happening in China? The government don't need to invest millions in a new technology, new drones, new satellites, if there's not. But if there's this peddling of a war between China and Taiwan, then we need to invest in that quickly and get that stuff in. So there's always a reason behind why we're peddling a story of a possible threat. And it usually, no matter what the US does, I mean, it's happened for years. You mean the weapons of mass destruction, the constant lies, the peddling of all the nonsense. I mean, there was the Afghan fiasco where everyone goes, Biden just walked away, left everything there. Well, maybe there was a reason behind that. Maybe there was military contractors that needed new investments for new weapon systems, and maybe if we dumped all that crap in Afghanistan, we can spend trillions of dollars again and build our stuff back up. So there's always a reason why things are left behind and why they peddle the story of war. There needs to be a war. War's very big business, no matter where it is, and the US always likes to lead.
I totally agree. I think not sure with the Chinese thing, but in my experience, the Chinese were... I had a magnificent time, met some fantastic people. My wife did great business. Can't say enough about them. So I'm not at all advocating that. I mean, I think we can sometimes we can conjure up a stoush with another country, because if you look at who started the most wars, of late, I think the US is leading, I think it's about 15 or something to zip. With China, zip, and the US being whatever they are. So the US loves the industrial war machine. They love a war. And so does the UK government. We love that war. Think of the charge of the Light Brigade. Maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's nothing like a good war to sort out the men from the boys, isn't there, Mike? Get the point of what we need and what we don't need. And then we find out that we have these vehicles sitting over there and they look beautiful, but no one's got the right license to drive them. It's always the same way.
No. You forget Starmer's going to have horses. Sorry. Hello, I'm Mr. Red. Trevor, it's a magnificent conversation. Thank you very much for your time. If somebody wants to find out more about you, how do they do that?
Well, I've got my YouTube channel, Trevor Coult MC, over on YouTube. But I will warn your viewers, if you want to come over and watch me, I do use the old fair language, a little bit more than I use on your station, but it's enjoyable.
I can't believe that someone would swear. It's just terrible. Who would give a shit?
Exactly.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Trevor Coult MC here at the World Today. Just before I go, I want to just thank, we got a bunch of ex-staff. Many of them have written into us, posted things and stuff, because it's 12 months and about 2 days since TNT closed.